Good morning, everybody. Good Monday morning. We are back live after Texas 31, Houston 24. Isn't everyone excited to be 6-1? Yeah.
Hey, bold.
It could be worse.
Look, I'm not. At the end of the day, a W is a W. Is what it is. I mean, look.
Bowl eligible.
I saw there was a guy. He had a good reaction. He was talking about. I mean, if you want to go through and say, okay, this team had a tough loss here against a team that shouldn't have. Georgia had a 7-point win versus Auburn, where they barely beat. Literally, all 9 out of 10 top 10 teams. You can go and point to a win that you're like, okay, that was crap. You had to barely beat a crap team.
Well, even so, I heard someone mention even the great Texas 2005 team had a clunker where they struggled to win a game or two. You know what I mean? So it does happen. All right, let's not all overreact. It does happen, but clearly there's some issues that need to be addressed, and we're going to do our best to address them because that's what we do. It's time to get your horns up. It is 6:31 in the morning. I am Travis Gailey, joined by Nash, who loves talking them horns, and Aaron from Orange Bloods, Aaron Little, who is sleep deprived after a weekend trip to Phoenix to watch his Diamondbacks. Aaron, you gonna catch up on some sleep tonight?
I will. Yeah, when Anwar's show ends, do not try to contact me because I will be asleep. Yeah, impromptu drive to Phoenix, about 30 hours of driving this weekend. Shout out to my wife for taking the bulk of that. But yeah, got to see some playoff baseball. It didn't really go great, but games 3 and 4, those were good. Not dead yet, so we'll see. But yeah, I am tired, but I am still excited to be up. Just watch the game, so I'm excited to talk about it.
And the Astros are going to Game 7, delaying the eventual Rangers heartbreak.
Oh, come on.
That's coming. Good morning to all of you in the chat. Benny Rogers first in the house. 6-1. That's right, Benny. Only one loss so far. So, you just keep chugging along. Craig has already diagnosed the problem. Fix the defense. There you go.
Just fix the defense.
That's that simple.
There we go. Thank you, Craig. Thank you for waking up with us.
Del Coleman in the house. Good morning, peeps. Good morning to you, Del. El Conquistador up early in the morning in California. Fresno in the house. Thank you, Conquistador, for getting up and joining us live. Same to you, Colton. Good morning. Always glad to have you in the house. And, there you go. So, the Specs chat line is up and running. If you guys have a question, fire it off to us. We'll see if we can get to it. I guarantee, though, we will get to it if it's a super chat question. So that's the best way to make sure your comment or question gets heard. All right, like I said, 31-24. The big news, though, is Quinn Ewers. That's the biggest news coming out of that. Anwar Richardson, first to break the news that Ewers has an AC joint sprain, a grade 2 AC joint sprain on his throwing shoulder. He will miss time, but Anwar is reporting that there is optimism that he will return this season. We don't have a timeline yet, but the fact that he is going to be out, we're going to see most likely Malik Murphy or Quinn. Quinn Ewers Arch Manning is still a possibility, but Malik's going to be the guy. We're going to see some Malik time. Quinn is out. Big picture, broad scope. I'll start with you, Nash. Does this dim any prospects you have of Texas running the table? Does it not? Does it matter? What is big picture? Quinn's injured, going to miss some time. What does that mean to you?
A little bit, but at the end of the day, not really. This is football. You got to be able to play with your backups. I think at the end of the day, we have three quarterbacks that we can win with, and yeah, I'm not that worried about it.
All right, Aaron, big picture.
Yeah, I am certainly less confident in the games on the schedule than I was with Quinn. I think that's fair. I also think what Nash is saying is true. Everyone's got injuries this time of year. A lot of teams have quarterback injuries this time of year. This is just puts more on the coaching staff, puts more on the run game, puts more on the defense. They all have to step up. We didn't get to see Malik throw too many passes. The ones he did throw, I don't know. I still feel like the arm motion might be a little long. Just looks a little stagnant. It just doesn't look too smooth, but he could get there. He got thrown into the fire. We'll see what he does with a full week of prep, knowing he is the starter, assuming it is Malik. So it'll be fun to watch him play. It's the one thing Texas fans have never really gotten from Malik. We just never really gotten to see him play for a long, consistent period of time. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, as far as odds of running the table, I mean, it took a hit, but it's not impossible. But games like Iowa State on the road, games like Kansas State at home, those feel a lot closer, especially since we watched.
Well, I think we're going to have him
almost
back by
lose.
Iowa State.
What's up?
I think we're going to have him back by Iowa State. I mean, if you look at the history of quarterbacks that have had the grade 2, it's a 2 weeks and they're back in the game.
Yeah. We don't know the exact timeline of how many games, so yeah, that would be great. But yeah.
And we should learn more today. Sark addresses the press around noon.
Well, he's going to be day to day.
So
he could have a broken.
He'll be
he could have a severed arm
practicing
and be
this
day
week.
to day.
No, exactly. But the offense is going to have to change. Just the skills that Malik brings are different than what Quinn brings. It's going to have to change. And the question is, to what does it look like? I mean, look, Malik's a big boy with a big arm. And we've talked about the deep ball being an issue with Quinn. It is not an issue with Malik. He throws a very good deep ball. He can get it down there. He can. I suspect if I were putting on my offensive coordinator hat, and of course we're being all football fans, we are all offensive coordinators, right? Every single one of us knows how to call a better game plan than Sark. That's just how this goes, right?
I can't call a better game plan than Sark, but I can call a better game plan than Joe Lombardi.
Well, and honestly, I don't think it's going to be like a I don't know what if you're trying to say like it's.
Well, let me say what I'm trying to say. What I'm getting at is
you're going to have different play call. You're going to like skew to different play calls a little bit, but I don't think the offense is going to change that much.
I think we're going to see more deep shots. For one, I do think Malik in and of himself will take more deep shots.
Well, I think that's more Malik Murphy trusting his arm than the calls.
I think we could see them relying on Brooks and Baxter a little more, which honestly they should have done in this game. With Houston dropping 8 every single play, they should have been relying on Brooks and Baxter more anyway. But I do think we're going to see some skew. I'm not talking about an drastic overhaul. I mean, this is still Sark's offense.
Well, I mean, but when a lot of people say that the quarterback is going to change and we got to change the offense, that's what a lot of people's minds go right to.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's going to be different emphasis there on different plays with Malik than you would have versus Quinn, than you would have versus Arch. That's natural. Sark goes through the playbook with the quarterback each week, and they talk about what they like, what they don't like. That's going to happen with Malik too. So you're going to see some variations. It's still Sark's offense. We're still going to see the Sark offense, but there are things that Malik is better at doing than Quinn. There are things that Quinn is better than doing than Malik. It's going to happen. So let's just see. We're going to have to see how it happens. And again, I think Malik will choose to go deep more because that's one of the things he enjoys doing. Aaron,
I think the main difference is how the defenses are going to play Texas. I mean, we've seen defenses. Oklahoma mixes up quite a bit, but most defenses have been happy to drop back in coverage. Let Texas run the ball. Texas has been running the ball. Obviously, Jonathan Brooks has been awesome, but they've been trying to take away some deep shots. That's been part of the reason why we haven't seen as many deep shots from Texas. I think you guys are both kind of right when you're talking about how the offense is going to change, but I think most of it comes down to defenses most likely are going to change how they play Texas. I think you got a backup quarterback without much college football experience. They're going to blitz him. I don't think they're just going to sit back and drop 8 and give him 5-yard outs over and over and over. There's going to be more guys in the box. There's going to be more emphasis on taking away the run. They're going to try to see if Malik can beat them over the top. So I do think we'll see more deep balls, but I don't know if it's because, Malik wants to go deep more than Quinn. I think it's because we're going to start seeing opposing defenses stack the box and just make Malik prove it because there's just nothing on film. I'm not saying he can or can't do it. No one's seen it yet. So they're not just going to, opposing defenses are not just going to let Jonathan Brooks and CJ Baxter run all over them when there's a quarterback back there that they don't know what he can do passing down the field. So I think that's the main thing that's going to change is we're going to see defenses become a lot more aggressive and not be as scared of this Texas passing game. Maybe Malik will burn him, but I think opposing defenses are going to want to find out.
Yeah. Nash?
Yeah, I think another thing that people need to be watching out for with Malik Murphy, you saw it on his first throw. One, he does like to I really like the fact that he had the confidence to target that downfield shot to Adonai Mitchell, but the timing was just off, completely off. And that's something that is gonna. I mean, and I don't know about. It'll be weird to see about how the grace period goes, but there's going to be a little bit of a disconnect in the timing that I'm just assuming right off the rip, and I think that is something that people need to be aware of.
Sure, that's fair. And by the way, this Sandman in the chat, Malik has an injury? Question mark, question mark. It was mentioned in the Fox broadcast that he had been banged up during the week. We don't know. We don't know what the injury is, how severe it is. Clearly, he went in and played. So, again, we don't know for sure that Malik is going to be the guy. Arch could still end up being the guy, but obviously Malik has been ahead of Arch all the way up to this point. If the injury is not serious, and again, we have no idea, this is not something we've heard from Sark. Clearly, this was something that was mentioned when the Fox broadcast crew was talking to Sark in the gang ahead of the game. But I don't know. I don't know what it is or has to. It wasn't bad enough to keep him out of the game Saturday. Now, it wasn't like for extended play time, so we'll see. But this is going to be, look, if they really are, I mean, they continue to be listed as like co-backups in the depth charts. If they really are that close, maybe we'll see a battle play out. I suspect they are not that close, that Malik really is truly ahead of Arch at this point. But I don't know. This is going to be part of the fun of this week of seeing who comes out ahead.
I mean, it's been too long, right? It's been like since the beginning of last year, since we had a good old fashioned like quarterback talk. It's just like,
right?
I feel like as a Texas fan, like this is supposed to happen every other week. Like what have we been doing?
And it's also about whoever wins the job this week. Whoever wins that quarterback one, what type of leash do they have? Because I mean, the entire season is still on the table, including making it to the playoffs. So, does Sark let it run out, and maybe let's just ride with this dude, or hey, we still have a chance to win. Let's try and spark something.
He's got to play the guy.
He's got to play
the best chance to win, regardless.
But I'm saying, so if you got a guy that's out there that we're not winning with this guy, like it's not going to happen today. Does Sark throw in the other guy?
I think if it looks bad, he does. I think the tough thing is we do not know exactly how far the gap
haven't
is.
Seen it.
We don't know how far the gap is between Malik and Arch. Like it has been Malik as the two this whole way. We don't know if it's close or if it's not close because we don't see the practices. There's been some reporting and some comments from Sark publicly that Arch has looked better recently, but we still don't know. It's coach speak. So
so what he said is a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago, he said Arch had the best practice he's ever had. Yeah. He followed that up with, we're still working on consistency.
Yeah, we don't know what the bar is.
So, I suspect that is where Malik is ahead of Arch right now, is in the consistency level. He's had more time in this offense. He's had more time to fully grasp what's going on. I mean, Arch is still a true freshman, right? I mean, who he's still learning this offense. He's still learning the speed of the game. It will come to him. I have no doubt, but can he do it play in and play out? That's why if you can't trust him every single play, I'm not sure he's going to be the guy. And I hope it's not one of these things where Sark is pulling one and putting in the other and they just go back and forth. That never works out. I mean, I don't know.
Unless you're an anti-Sark thing. I don't feel like that's something that Sark will do.
I don't think it is either. I agree. That doesn't feel like Sark.
Like, look at how he handled Casey Thompson and Hudson Card.
Right.
When he pulled Hudson Card out of Arkansas, that was it. It was not back and forth.
Hudson could have gone into the witness protection program and it would have been just the same. I mean, he was gone after that. He lost all trust. So I don't foresee that happening. And it's not like a situation at like K-State where they've got two different quarterbacks with very different skill sets. Avery Johnson coming in as being like the running guy. So it's going to be interesting to see this play out this week, probably for the next few weeks. I think we're going to see how Texas handles that. The good news is the worst part of the schedule is over, right? I mean, there are still some tough games on the. I mentioned Kansas State. They've become resurgent under the freshman quarterback. That's going to be a tough one. Iowa State's always tricky. I know they're not having a great year, but it can be a tricky place. And maybe Nash is right. Maybe Quinn is back by then. I don't know. But hopefully the talent level puts you ahead of where, that you can just roll through and win some games on talent alone.
Well, I mean, if that was, yeah, that's still on the table, but Texas they were 23.5-point favorites going into this game, and they're tied in the fourth quarter. And it wasn't great to watch back. I mean, if you remove the rankings and you remove the records from the score bug and you told someone to watch this football game that had never really watched Texas or Houston before, and they just watched that game, I'm telling you, it wasn't. You would think the teams are pretty similar, and that's scary. Just based on that game alone, obviously they're not given the whole resume, but just watching that game, you see guys running open for Houston, you see guys running open for Texas, you see quarterbacks completing passes, you see defenses like making mistakes in the secondary. Like, the teams did not look that different if you just remove the names and the brands and the records and the rankings. And that's got to change, man. I mean, they've got to lay the smackdown on these teams that they're supposed to lay the smackdown. I mean, the spread was 23.5 for a reason. It wasn't a bad line. Like, Vegas makes those lines for a reason. So it's time to step up against these lesser opponents.
That's what Cotton and Sandman are saying too. That's what I said in our show Thursday. That I was going to be concerned if I didn't see this team come out fast. And the second part of that statement was, the very second part of that, the last part of that sentence was, and put together 4 quarters of play, because we haven't seen that yet. And I'm jumping ahead of myself. We'll get to more of that in a minute. I did want to address the running backs, by the way. This is a game where, and Nash, I know you're on board with me on this. Houston was dropping 8 players into the field every single play. They were playing that 3-3-5 that really does seem to give Sark some problems here and there, and consistently seems to give Sark's offense some problems. And they were forcing Texas to try and drive the field and nickel and diming it, check down, when it started out and they're gaining 10 yards a rush every time they got the ball. It seemed like they should have just been handing off instead of the checkdowns. The checkdowns gave the defense time to come up and make a quick stop. The handoffs would have been better. Should we have seen more from I'm saying we should have seen more from Brooks and Baxter on Saturday.
I think at the very least you should have seen more RPOs and just more rushes. I think because Brooks had a lot of carries. He had like 20 carries, so that's right on where you want him around. Baxter should have had more carries. He definitely looked a lot more explosive, and he looked healthy for the first time. And honestly, I mean, I'm probably alone on an island and having this opinion, but I don't think that I'm not placing a lick of blame on the players from this game. For me, this entirely goes on Steve.
I have some players that I wasn't happy with.
But it's all on Steve Sarkeesian, because you look at it like we should have been calling a lot more run plays. I mean, you got 4 men and 5 men in the box at best, like that, and that's being generous sometimes. So you should be able to dominate on that, running the ball. And then 2 is there was that just horrible call to go for a 4th down. To me, like I've said this before, the other day, I feel like Steve Sarkeesian, not in here, but I said it somewhere else, but I feel like Steve Sarkeesian, he has the inability to pass up on the field goal, or not pass up on the field. He has the inability to not try and go for the touchdown. You look at that drive. We were driving the ball. We stalled out on the 26-yard line, and it's okay. It's either go for it right here, 4th and 2, and then 4th and 5 or something like that. And then whatever that play was with the pass to the kicker,
the fake field goal.
It was arrogant. It was dumb. We had a 14-point lead at that point. You always take the chance to go up 3 scores every single time, especially when there's 2 minutes left in the second quarter.
It was right before the halftime.
And then so what happens is they get that 4th down. That's a gigantic momentum swing no matter what. Then they go down and they score, so now they're within 7. All right, momentum's swung on their side. We go out there, we have one horrible play, minus 8 yards, momentum sitting there. Momentum comes back neutral after halftime, and then immediately after halftime, first play, 45-yard kick return, 15 yards added on the back end, and then they score. Game tied.
It was
if he had taken that field goal,
play.
if he had taken that field goal, even if they score, say we kick the field goal and we kick the ball off, they go down the field, they score, and everything remains the same. We still have a 3-point lead when they come out of the half and they score that touchdown. And it's a different feeling when you have a 3-point lead versus, oh crap, we just got tied and momentum's right back on their side.
It was a game-changing decision. It was a momentum-changing decision. This game probably ends up looking very, very different if Sark just kicked the damn ball. I mean, if we're being completely honest. But this sets up also that drive from Houston right at the end of the half to score that touchdown, sets up another big issue that was exposed most noticeably against OU and again against Saturday. This pass defense is broken. There are some serious issues with this pass defense. I suspect a lot of it is Jalen Catalon being out and Ryan Watts being out. I can't say that for sure, but for instance, on that drive where Houston scored the touchdown right before half, after the fake field goal, Texas had Houston in 3rd and 10. Houston ran a motion, and I'm calling out 2 players by name, and I'm not saying they're the reasons for the loss. I'm not. I'm just using this as an example of some of the problems and why I say especially Catalon's being out is a huge issue. Houston ran motion. Keaton Crawford's coming over with him. He's trying to communicate to Jalen Gilbo in the play that they need to switch receivers. Jalen Gilbo was lined up on the slot guy. Gilbo stays with the slot guy. Crawford switches to the slot guy. I mean, Gilbo stays with the outside guy. Crawford switches, leaving the slot guy wide open across the middle, which, by the way, was one of the exact same plays that OU had on their touchdown, their game-winning touchdown drive, the one that hit where they hit Drake Stoops. It was the same type of issue. Miscommunication on the back end is seriously costing this defense. And Ryan Watts being out is he's their best cornerback. It's a problem. And until that gets fixed, it's hard to look at Texas and say, boy, they've got it going on. Nash, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been a kind of almost like a little bit of a Michael Taft fan, but it's just if we're relying on him to play 50% or more of the snaps, I don't think that's going to be a product that. And same with Crawford. Like these are 2 dudes that are really, they're excellent special teams guys. They're excellent guys to come in depth and give you some snaps here and there. But it's just like there's one thing that stuck out to me, and like it's the same thing, communication. I think we're missing Catalan so much back there. Is there was a play where Taft, and I'm not saying this is on Taft, but you can tell when there's a communication breakdown because immediately players will, like the defensive backs, they'll be like, a bunch of hand signals, like this is on, like they'll start pointing at somebody. And you saw that there was a touchdown that they had. I think it was a second touchdown. And Michael Taft, he's like, yo, you're supposed to help out right here, or something like that. He said that to somebody. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, I'm like, communication again. Communication.
Yeah, so, there's a lot of issues that have come up, and I think a lot of it is definitely Catalan and Watts being out. I mean, pretty much everything.
Gavin Holmes, Terrence Brooks. Like we actually, I don't know if people noticed, but that play that Jahdae Barron made at the end of the game, he's playing cornerback.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was
cornerback. Like we're thin right now.
This team has lost. They have lost the physicality on defense. If you go back and you watch Alabama and you watch the Wyoming game, the defense was physical. They were flying up from the secondary, making tackles. A lot of that is Catalan. Watts is a pretty physical corner. I mean, he's good like press coverage, which Texas was not playing much of at all. Part of that is because Ryan Watts was out. Terrence Brooks, he did not have a good game. There were multiple guys in the secondary that did not have a good game, but this defense has lost its physicality. They were not making adjustments. There was a comment earlier. This was, the safeties and the linebackers were definitely getting abused. Houston was running those crossing routes over and over. The Texas safeties, they were too slow. I mean, they were just too slow to catch up with those guys on the crossing routes, especially when Texas was playing soft coverage. You give the Houston wide receivers a running start because they're playing off in coverage. There was just too much room. The Texas secondary, the Texas safeties, and the linebackers were not fast enough. David Benda was getting picked on in the passing game. The young guys, Derek Williams, Michael Taft, he's been around, but he's just not like a super talented guy, even though he can do some different things. It was over and over. The middle of the field was getting picked on. The adjustments weren't really there. And a lot of it goes back to the communication, like you said, Nash, about Catalan. I think the lack of physicality is what stood out to me. They're just not flying up and making tackles. They're not like making their will. They're just not being felt. I think a lot of that is missing Catalan. They're not playing press coverage. A lot of that is because they don't have Ryan Watts. So, I mean, it's not like a lot of it does go back to there, but I think PK can do more with this defense. I think he was mixing it up more because this is just not the same defense.
The lack of press coverage is frustrating. And it's something, by the way, we were talking about that last season too. Sark was talking about that last season. We need to play tighter. We need to play tighter. That will help the defensive line get more pressure that we need to play. And you watch Saturday, they're given 10-yard cushions consistently. Well, it is a frustrating issue. And
the reason why is because there was a guy, Matthew Golden, is a 10-3 100-meter dude.
Okay.
It's at the end of the day, like you need to give yourself a cushion on guys like that. Like especially
they're
with
giving them
Aaron's saying, like when guys are having trouble keeping up with the crossers or over the middle, like I mean, if you go and you press that dude, it's just over the top of you every single time.
I would rather take my chances with that. They can't consistently hit that ball. I'd rather take my chances than that, than let them get 10-yard cushions on 3rd and 5. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like this is an issue. And people want to talk about the lack of pass rush with Texas. And I get it. It is frustrating that they are not getting there. But that's a big part of it. If you cannot put your men in press and hold them for at least a few seconds, you're not going to get the sacks. It's just not it's frustrating to watch.
No, Aaron? That's exactly what it is. I mean, they weren't, I just feel like overall, both sides of the ball, the coaching staff from Texas was happy to let Houston dictate how the game went. When Texas had the ball, Houston was dropping back into that 3-3-5. They were dropping 8 every single time. And Sark was content to take his 5-yard passes, his 6-yard passes over the middle and try to move the ball down the field. Quinn Ewers started this game 19 of 20. Like, they were completing passes at will, but they were doing exactly what Houston wanted them to do. Like, that defense is designed to let the quarterback complete small passes down the field, and then eventually you hope for a holding, you hope for a drop, you hope for a sack, and it just stalls the drive. And then on the flip side, Nash, I understand what you're saying is like if you do get pressed, you might risk getting burnt, and you want to make Houston put together long drives like we've been talking about throughout the year. But it's tough because it definitely let Houston, they played that soft coverage and they let them hit those crossers over the middle over and over. And that allows them to do what Travis was saying. The ball was out so quick. The pass rush has been kind of an issue lately, and it didn't even have a chance because Texas was playing so soft in the secondary. The ball was out. I just felt like on both sides, the Texas coaching staff was very happy to let Houston dictate how the game was played, and Texas just fell back on, we're 23.5-point favorites. We'll find a way to win. And they did, and credit to them for doing it, but it was a lot sweatier than it probably needed to be.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, like, as for, like, I don't know, man. Like, they were pretty when you talk about time to throw for the quarterback for Houston, they weren't getting the ball out super quick. They weren't, like, holding on to it. But, like, if you look at it, Rice, JT Daniels, I already had all this stuff up from a previous conversation with somebody, so it fits right in. It was actually where I was already going on the little – but Rice, 2.7 yard time to throw. Bama, 3.68. Wyoming, 2.83. Baylor, the first quarterback, 2.78. Baylor, second quarterback, 2.82. Kansas, 3.15. OU, 3.01. Houston, 2.58. I mean, quarterbacks, at the end of the day, you can't just expect your defensive backs to cover all day long. You need that pass rush to be a boa constrictor and to suffocate these dudes. And the reality is they're not getting home fast enough. It's just like we need some war daddies up there that are going to get us some sacks. And right now we just don't have that. And well, no, there's been some fair stuff pointed out about like guys getting chokehold and WWE going on with the offensive line against Texas defensive ends. But yeah, it's just I don't know. Like I can't blame the defensive backs when they're out there. Like especially once and it goes for Quinn Ewers too. Once that play clock from the ball's been snapped has gotten to 3 seconds, there should be a wide open dude somewhere on the field, and if not, the quarterback probably missed him.
Yeah, I do want to address this comment. First off, yeah, the Ewers pass to Worthy, that was awesome. I mean, it was just perfect timing. The ball could not have been placed any better. That was one of my favorite throws that he's made all year. But I don't really understand the criticism in the rest of the comment. I mean, Houston was playing the 3-3-5, and when you do that, there's just not going to be deep shots down the field. So I don't know if this person is looking for Quinn to push the ball down the field more. I mean, he was making the throws that were open. He was hitting the open receivers. He was doing pretty much all he could do. I mean, they need to just run the ball more against the 3-3-5.
Well, and it's easy to nitpick when we're watching from like a perfect angle, where we're able to see both. Like people need to realize like there might be like there was, for example, there was actually a wide receiver that came open. Like it was Adonai Mitchell. He came wide open on a crossing route. They were doing that 3 high safety, the field safety. The field corner guy that's cover. It's basically cover 3. He's running up. He's got Worthy. Worthy's going up top. Okay, Whittington. He's running right up the middle, and you have Adonai Mitchell coming in right behind him. The safety picks up Whittington. There's a giant void right there, but to get to that void, there's 2 linebackers that are kind of right in front of it, and it's just like. I'm like Quinn. He does have some progression that needs to be made, but I mean, like I said earlier, like that's the clock hit 3 seconds on that play. You had the defensive line starting to break through. Quinn just put it to the check down. I'm not going to blame Quinn on that, and especially when we're getting 5-6 yards on those checkdowns.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I shouldn't come away from watching that game with like it being a Quinn.
No, yeah,
issue.
no,
There
I
probably
don't.
more guys down the field. I mean, of course he.
I don't know how
probably
anybody could watch that game and go, "Oh, Quinn Ewers. Oh my God. Oh, we lost the game because of Quinn."
No, I don't think anyone should be saying that. And I do agree.
Oh, there are. comment they exist.
That Texas fans are going to miss Quinn while he's out. But I'll say this: this is the chance for Malik Murphy to shine. And he's got some skills. He has some talent. I go back to his high school days, by the way, that COVID-shortened junior season that they played in the spring. He really kind of struggled. That was his first chance starting because he was behind another guy, D1 quarterback prior to that. By the fall, when they played the next season, he led them to a state championship. So Malik Murphy can get there. He knows what he's doing. And now's your chance to get there with Malik Murphy. That's right. Guess who just happens to be a member of the Elite Sports Memorabilia family? Oh, that's right. None other than likely new Texas starting quarterback, Malik Murphy. And now's your chance to jump on board with that too. Whip out your phone and scan this QR code. We've got Malik Murphy jerseys available. Elite Sports Memorabilia has Malik Murphy jerseys and helmets available for your autograph for you to get today if you want. It's really simple. It's really easy. They look great. Malik's, by the way, got a very nice little signature. You can actually read his name. It's not just a whoosh. He actually, I suspect that'll change over time as he does this more often. But for right now, he writes out his name and it's very clear. You can actually see it, which is kind of a nice little
it's the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite. I have 2 signatures from Malik Murphy. I have a poster that has the entire football team from 2022. And he had a little like M&M, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's cool!" Like M&M, but
Elite Sports Memorabilia.
He's gone straight to he said, "I'm full name, baby."
Elite Sports Memorabilia. They have to sign their full name, and you can read it very clearly. So I love it. It's a great product. If if you're going to get on board the Murphy train, now's the time, because I'm telling you, the dude has skills. He does. It's going to be exciting to see him come out and play, and what he can do, and what this offense looks like under Malik. I'm actually kind of looking forward to seeing that play. Yes, Quinn will be missed, but for now, let's see what Malik's got, and it's a glimpse into the future, if you will.
Show me what you got.
It's his time. It's his time. You know what? And by the way, speaking of time, it's time to start thinking ahead to next week's game day, because if you are going to the game, if you're going to be tailgating, you need to stock up. You're going to need your provisions ready to go. And there's only one place to do that. Specs, Texas Born and Bred Company. They've got locations everywhere, all over the state. So even if you're coming in from like Dallas to Austin ahead of game day, hit the Specs on the way down. They've got them there. Or, you know what? If you want to just go on the line, Specs Online, or the Specs app, you can have them delivered ahead of time. You could do that now, get them delivered, and you're ready to go on Saturday, even if you're just hanging out at home. So be sure to check out Specs for all your game day provisions.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
All righty, and we are back. Listen, I kind of wanted to get into what call it the big picture college football. And I'm putting this out for me. You guys, this is not an edict, show-wide edict, but this is an edict for me. First off, Texas is up to 7 now in both the AP and coaches poll. They keep ticking over wins, and they keep moving up. But I am putting a moratorium on college football playoff talk for Texas. And it simply goes back to this is not a playoff team. Until you can put together 4 quarters of football during the season, and they haven't done that yet, not once. Until you can do that, you are not a college football playoff team. This team is good enough to go to the Big 12 championship game and win it. That was the goal coming into the season. That goal is still available. And if that happens, yeah, they probably will be in the college football playoffs. But kind of like my PTSD with the Rangers, where I'm telling you they're not going to win the World Series, probably not going to win Game 7. This is not a team that can go out and win a national championship. And if they do, frankly, it's unless they have drastic improvement. And we haven't seen that yet, so I have no reason to hold out hope that there's going to be drastic improvement. This is not a college football playoff national championship team. It just isn't. Nobody watching this team can tell me that this is a team that's capable of winning it all. Am I wrong on that?
I'm not going to say you're wrong. It's just sad. Like, I'm just worried about you. Like, after all the Texas fans have been through for so long, and I understand how this team is showing a lot of the same signs as some of the previous team, but it's like, it is basically November, and there are scenarios out there, and it's just like, you're not even letting yourself dream. With the Rangers, dude, they're literally in Game 7 of the ALCS, and you're like, they can't win the World Series.
That goes back even further than the Longhorns.
I understand, but like, I'm not saying that the Rangers are going to win tonight or that Texas is going to win the whole thing. I'm just saying, it's just sad. Like, you got to be able to live a little as a fan. We don't have to predict that it's going to happen. But
Sark himself has said championship teams get better during the season. They progress as they go through the season. I haven't seen that with this team. They're still good because they're a good team. There's a lot of good players. A lot of you in the chat were saying, well, we haven't seen the talent win out. I disagree with that. We have seen the talent win out. We saw the talent win out, for instance, against Wyoming. They poured on the gas in the fourth quarter because they out-talented Wyoming and outlasted them. What improvement have you seen from this team, though, that makes you say, okay, they are progressing from August to September to October? And like you said, we're nearly to November. Do you see a drastically different and improved team that's capable of taking it to anybody they play?
No, I don't really. No, when I watch this team, I do not see a team that I'm like, that is one of the 4 best teams in the country. But I'm just saying, in the overall scope of making the college football playoff, the best 4 teams are not always the 4 teams that make it. There's,
sure.
Everyone plays a different schedule. This isn't the NFL. They still are probably going to be favored in all the games they play. We'll see if, Quinn's back. That'll change things. Maybe not. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Is this team playing like a top 4 team? No. I mean, we've been watching the games. We know that's not true. I will say this is college football. Things change quickly. I just think the fans should be allowed to dream. You're a fan. You can do it.
Again, this wasn't an edict to anyone but me.
Yeah.
I'm done talking playoffs until I see, and they very well, I'm not saying they're not going to make the playoffs, because if they do what they should do and go out and win the Big 12 championship, and they should do that, then they very well could be in the playoffs. But I'm going to stop talking about it because it's irrelevant to me.
Well, unless we talk about it on the show, because we do host a show every hour.
But I'm saying,
I'm not. People can say, stop talking about the playoffs. No, I'm not going to. I'm going to keep talking about the playoffs. I'm going to enjoy. I'm going to soak up. Do you understand the last time that we've had a 6-1 season start? No. It's been so long. I'm going to enjoy this stuff. If y'all want to go cry in the corner, y'all can go cry in the corner. That's fine.
It's not crying in the corner.
It's
not
kind
at
of
all
soaking
crying in the corner.
So basically,
it's a team
at the end of the day, I think that this team is a team that's capable of beating. I think that this team is. When you talk about, for example, to your point, we haven't seen this team play a full game. We haven't seen them execute in all 3 phases of the game for 4 quarters. I think that this is a team that if we start to see that happening, this is easily a team, yes, that can go toe-to-toe with any team in the country.
Okay. The flip side of that is this is also a team that can hang around and barely beat Houston. This is also a team that could stumble against Kansas State or TCU or Iowa State.
100%.
This is a team and so if you're
but it's also a team that can go out there and hang and just drag their what over people's faces.
But they haven't. They haven't,
but they can. They have that ability.
They can. They probably should be. But they
should be. I'll agree with all these things that you're saying, but I'm going to enjoy this.
The biggest win of the year so far has been Baylor, and even that game, they only scored 38 points, and they should have been in the 50s. So if you're a playoff team, you're putting 50s up on teams like Baylor. You're not hanging around with Houston and relying on. Frankly, it was a bad spot. I don't think Houston lost the game because of that, but it was a bad spot in the 4th quarter that kept Houston from at least being able to try and tie it. You shouldn't rely on that. You shouldn't have to rely on that. So I'm not going to talk about this team in connection with the playoffs until they show me they're worthy of being in connection with the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like both can be true. I feel like we can
and that's exactly what it is.
Both can be true. I am not predicting that Texas is going to make the playoffs. If you put a gun to my head, I would predict Texas will not make the playoffs. But I think the team is ranked number 7 in the country, so they've earned the right to at least we're allowed to talk about it. I don't know. That's just how I feel.
And to be clear, I'm not saying they're not going to make the playoffs. I'm just saying they're not that they don't. I don't think it's a playoff-worthy team. If I were in charge of college football and I had to pick 4 teams to be in the playoffs today, Texas wouldn't make it.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously,
they could end up. They very easily could run the table and end up in the playoffs. But if that happens, unless I see some drastic improvement, I'm not going to sit here and pick them to win it all either. Yeah, can they go out? Clearly, they went on the road and beat Alabama, who, by the way, Alabama is a team that is improving as the season goes on. They're starting to figure things out. They're getting better. But overall, by the way, this weekend I thought was a real pretenders versus contenders weekend. You know what I mean? And I think by that I mean, look, Texas struggled, OU struggled. Frankly, I don't see either of these teams right now as being playoff caliber teams. North Carolina lost. USC, which so many had hyped up ahead of they've got 2 losses now. They're out. Ohio State, meanwhile, came out and proved themselves. Michigan continues to Michigan does what I've been saying Texas needs to do. They put together 4 quarters and just choke teams to death. They win games the way you want a playoff caliber team to win games. Florida State. I know people don't love Florida State, but by God, all they do is go out and win, and usually pretty handily. So I think we saw some pretenders fall by the wayside this weekend in a very strange weekend of college football. A lot of weird scores, a lot of close games that shouldn't have happened. And it happens every year, but I think we're going to see the wheat separating from the chaff here.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, I think you're kind of just making the point. Like, this is college football. Like, weird stuff is going to happen. Like, Oklahoma 2-point win over UCF. Like, there's a lot of stuff that could go on. And yeah, I mean, is Texas one of those teams that could get upset in a random game? Yeah, they might be at the top of that list. But I mean, there are other teams that could lose too. But the North Carolina loss was big. We talked about that. I think North Carolina, if they're able to get into the ACC championship, they can beat Florida State. So you never know what could happen there. But yeah, Alabama looks good. They're probably playing like one of the best 4 teams, but at the end of the day, that's just helping Texas' resume. But yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of, it's just that time of year of college football. Like, there's injuries, there's coaches making adjustments, there's, weather's getting cold. Like, it's time for upsets. Like, there's just more film. It's fun. This is what makes college football fun. You never really know what's going to happen every week when you get to this point in the season.
Nash, you're still on board with the Texas as a playoff team?
Yeah,
that wasn't even what I just said.
I still like.
No, I know.
I'm not like. I don't. I every single time angled question has been asked, sort of about, are you worried about Texas with Malik Murphy going? No, I'm not worried. Like, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I still think that we're going to win out the rest of the season, and we face Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship. We win that game, and we go. And at that point, it's out of our hands, and it's whatever the cultural playoff decides is the top 4 teams.
All right. I'm not saying that's not going to happen. I think Texas should do that. I think Texas should run the table. I think Texas should beat OU. They should have beaten OU in Dallas, by the way. But this team has just struggled with so much. I mean, we just spent 15 minutes talking about the pass defenses being exposed.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I understand it was Houston, but it was 24 points. If the defense is only allowing 24 points, that should be enough to win the game every single time with Steve Sarkeesian's offense.
Well,
which goes right back to the play calling. I think the play calling was just like, this is something that I think even Steve Sarkeesian, like, you look up, we hung 21 points on them within the first quarter and a half. And then after that, it was just all gone away up until the very end of the game. So, and if you look at that too, that last drive where, why did we score? How did we score? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it was because we ran the ball 7 times to 1 pass. I don't know. Maybe.
Right.
So I'm just like, at the end of the day, a lot of this blame goes on the coaching staff.
You do have to give
part of it, right?
Like, when Malik came in and they had to put a drive together and they just ran the ball straight down the field, like, that was impressive by the offensive line on that drive. So that was a good sign. It does make you think maybe you could have done that the whole game when you had Quinn in there and they had to respect the pass even more. The fact that they were able to do it with Murphy when they had to run it, that was a good sign. But at the same time, it was like, you probably could have done.
And by the way, kudos to the offensive line with Jake Majors not fully healthy. Came out and I thought he had a very good game. I think the offensive line
played the full game.
So kudos to Majors and the rest of the boys up front. But yes, to both of your points, they should have been doing that the whole game. And yeah, sure, you can pin that on Sark. You can say, well, that's on Sark, but that's part of it too. The fake field goal was on Sark too. And again, I think the dynamic of this game is vastly different if Texas just takes the 3 points. Going up 24-7 at halftime is very different than going up 21-14. It just is. It's psychologically, it's very different. And I think you see a different outcome.
I just didn't like it because, like, it was 4th and 6. And like I said, Quinn started this game 19 of 20, just hammering 6 and 7 yard passes. Like, if you really wanted to go for it that bad, you could have just run the offense you had been running. It was they wanted Bert Auburn to run like 10 yards.
Yeah.
Like,
Aaron, you hit the nail on the head, right, man? Like, if you're going to go for it,
just go for it.
All love to the specialist, all love to Ryan Sanborn, for the brand, and Bert Auburn. Why the hell are you putting the ball into two, let's call it what, soccer players' hands?
Yes.
Like at the end of the day, right? You have a quarterback. You have 3 like potential NFL legit wide receivers. You have multiple running backs that are having good days. Let's use the kicker. And that's where I say, like, to me, it just felt like pure arrogance, right? We're up 14 points.
I think arrogance is a good word for
it. Felt like he want like I think what was going through Sark's mind was let's just steal their souls, right? Let's just murder them right now. Because
I think part of it too,
if that happens, right? Let's just play devil's advocate and say that play is successful, right? Houston's sitting there going, holy like the kicker.
Right? Running free.
Like what can we do? Like, and because here's the deal, if that happens, we're in the red zone, and you know what? Texas was actually good. Hey, bold prediction that I had: Texas is going to be good in the red zone. We were. Now, granted, it's Houston, so you should be, but like we're saying, for common theme for this is a lot of things that should have could have.
I mean, on the fake
and 28-7 is even more of a beatdown than 24-7. Like they go into the half to. So I agree with you. I think that was Sark's thinking. He wanted to put the dagger in him, and he wanted to do it right then and there. But, you know.
And also, I think there's also the aspect if he can't let go of when he has a long drive stall out. I think that.
No, I think he takes it personally. What were you saying, Aaron?
I was just saying, like, on the fake field goal, I think they saw something on film throughout the week, obviously, that made them think that play would work. They must have seen Houston, like, just crashing everyone to sell out for the field goal block.
Sark said that.
And they got very – he said that? Yeah. Because
Sark said that. So
they got very unlucky with the call because Houston –
He said Houston has gone for the block.
Coverage. Yeah.
Yeah, he said Houston has gone for the block every single time. Yeah. Every time. They've never played it safe. And this is the first time they've ever played it safe. So he said –
Tennessee breaker.
He was like, if you want to find out what happened on that play, go ask Dana, because
that's interesting that he said that, because that was like exactly what I thought watching it this morning. I was like, they were like, that play design is they were expecting them to completely sell out, and then I watched the Houston defense and it was like, oh my gosh, they just dropped into coverage at the perfect time.
Yep, it was a perfect.
Yeah,
and look, Sark has shown a tendency to want to do these kind of things anyway. Like he's got a bit of a gambler in him, which I'm not going to slam him for. I actually do like the gambler in him. You know, I can appreciate that. But because he's shown it so many times, which is, again, I like because it forces teams to prepare for it. But because of that, I think Houston was ready for it. They broke tendency because they were, you know, the hairs on the back of their head stood up and they were like, oh, well, Sark tends to like to do things like this around here. Let's play it safe. Plus, Houston's whole game plan was to play it safe and keep the game as close as possible.
Yeah.
That's why they dropped 8 into coverage the whole time. They're playing it safe. They're playing it safe. They're playing it safe. And that's something that was information that Sark had in his pocket that he should have recognized and understood this is not the time to go for it on a fake field goal.
I think the drop in 8 was just because they were getting, like, it was like, okay, we cannot allow Worthy to get over the top of us anymore.
But that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. They're playing it safe. They're trying to force Texas to, and this goes back to Aaron's point earlier in the game. Texas let Houston dictate what they wanted. Houston was trying to force Texas to nickel and dime it down the field. Yeah. And to some degree, it worked. Texas got up 21-0 pretty quickly and then kind of stalled out because they're having to nickel and dime it down the field. And back to all of our points, all three of us have said this, and we're right. They should have been running the ball when that happened. But, you know, again, we're at this point we're rehashing the same points, which I think we all agree on. You know, there's issues here, and it does need to get better. So, by the way, we talked about the college football. What a strange weekend it was. Aaron, we did our picks. Were we pretty even?
I haven't really had a chance to add it up because
Nash added it up.
I did. Right? Y'all were both 5-5. I was 4-6.
All right. See,
we've just been so mid lately.
Yeah.
Like, the record overall.
Well, and there was a couple, like I had like 3 that, like, it was like a late swing that I lost it. USC completely. I'm never going on USC ever again. Like,
that was the one I felt the best about, so I'm glad I at least hit that.
Yeah. I the one that I felt the best about was Duke, and that was just like that really sucked. Riley Leonard going out too. Yeah.
Yeah, I was okay with I nailed the Duke one, and part of that was we weren't sure if Riley Leonard was going to play in the first place. So I was happy with that one. But even going back to like, who was it? Alabama, I think, had the scoop and score late.
Yeah, Tennessee looked like they would have covered that. I mean, they were
They
covering
would
for
have
most of the
covered.
game. But
Yeah.
I think the most eye-opening one that we probably should at least hit on was Kansas State TCU. I mean, those were two teams that I thought were going to be kind of even, and I kind of wanted to see who would establish himself as like the tougher opponent for Texas. And man, Kansas State definitely took it to them quite a bit. So that was a little eye-opening there. Did y'all get to watch that game at all? I didn't get to watch it.
I watched some of it, not a lot of it, but I did watch some. And it's honestly, this goes back to, and this was kind of what we talked about coming into that game, the freshman quarterback, Avery Johnson, the K-State freshman quarterback, who's come on and is really running more than anything else, but he's changed the dynamic of that offense. And Kleiman likes to run the ball anyway. So he's, having a running quarterback, I think fits Kleiman's offense. Now, the flip side of that, TCU's freshman quarterback, whose name is slipping out of my head right now, he struggled mightily against that K-State defense. And that was all the difference in the
you know what? I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, this is where like I'm if I had to choose a quarterback, if I had to choose one for a quarterback to be good at, I would much rather this defense go up against a quarterback that is a really good runner as opposed to a really good passer. And I think that's what you see in Avery Johnson. I mean, you look at that 5 for 10, 50% completion percentage, 90 yards. He was out at halftime because they're already beating TCU so bad. But it's just he looks defeatable as a passer. And then at the end of the day, this is one that this run defense, they're legit, especially when they're actually keying on something.
Well, that was part of the absolutely. Texas only gave up 14 yards rushing to Houston.
On less than 1 yard per carry.
14. How you end up in a one-score
game
with only giving up 14 yards rushing is beyond me. But
the secondary was that bad, honestly.
They had more yards than Texas, and they had
I know, and it was all through the air. By the way, guys, Aaron posted this in the chat, and it's absolutely right. Listen, if you've liked this show, if you agree with us about the issues, if you agree with us that,
or you disagree with Nash,
no, Nash. I agree with you on most of the things you said today. Hit that like button. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out. It helps the show out. Listen, Anwar Richardson is the one who broke the Quinn Ewers AC joint sprain news. He'll probably have more on that coming up in Anwar's Old Fashioned Sports Show that's following us in 30 minutes. About 30 minutes. And after that is House Divided with Jeff Ketchums and Chad Hastings. Ketch, I'm sure, has got more about Malik coming up in his show. Football with Friends this afternoon. I think you're going to hear about some problems that Alex has with
play calling. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think you're going to hear Alex talk about some Jatavian Sanders pass blocking problems.
Yeah, because that was the play that Quinn got injured.
That was the play that Quinn got injured, and it's something that Alex hit on all last week, that JT Sanders, while not 100%, has struggled in that area. So I suspect, I don't know, I haven't talked to Alex about it, but I bet you're going to hear about that in the Football with Friends show this afternoon. And of course, we've got OB Outsiders tonight. It's going to be interesting to hear Chance Mock's take on what it will take for Malik to come in as a backup at this stage in the game, at this stage in the season. So there's a lot of great football content coming up on the channel. Be sure and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. Hit the like button for us. In the meantime, boys, we got a little playoff baseball to watch tonight as well. Game 6 in the NLCS, Diamondbacks, Phillies. Game 7 in the ALCS, Rangers, Astros. Scherzer versus Javi. Who you got?
I want to ask you, Travis. I mean, you're the pessimistic Rangers fan. Like, you jumped in. You've been watching during the playoffs. What do you want them to do? What do you want the Rangers to do on the mound? Like, you want just 9 batters for Scherzer? Because I think that's what I would be at. Like, I don't think I'm letting him face the top of the order twice.
What do I want? What I want is Scherzer to do a complete game no-hitter.
Well, no, what do you think? How do you think they should do it? Like, because you've got Andrew Heaney, you've got Dane Dunning, and then those are pretty much the 3 guys that need to get you to Spores, Leclerc, and Chapman. I don't know. I think I would try to like go one time through the order with Scherzer, once with Heaney, one with Dunning. So I don't know.
And being in Game 7, you can do that. It'd be interesting to see how Bruce Bochy plays it, because you can empty the bullpen. You can make it a true bullpen game, but I don't trust the Rangers bullpen. That's why I said what I want is Scherzer to stand on his head and look like the Scherzer of old. And do I think it'll happen? No, obviously.
Nash, who do you have?
Who do you got in the game? Game 7, Nash. Astros, Houston. You're the fence rider here.
I mean, you've been watching him. You've been
I said, I am a win-win here as a fan of both teams. So I don't know. I'm just gonna I'll do a coin flip, and we got Houston winning.
All right, there we go.
NLCS, man.
Yeah, we agree on that too.
It's Game 6 NLCS. You know, obviously, they've got the Diamondbacks. They've got to win 2 games in Philadelphia. I've watched playoff baseball. I'm aware Philadelphia has a good crowd. I don't know, man. I don't think it's quite.
D-backs, by the way, too. D-backs are going to win that game. That was just a given. That was just a given.
Phillies have been better the whole series. I've been watching the games. I know that. At the same time, here's the facts. The Diamondbacks have a very good starting pitcher on the mound tonight. Anything can happen in Game 7. Those are the 2 things that I know. Like, would I pick the Phillies to win tonight if my life depended on it? Yes. Would I pick the Phillies to win tomorrow if there's a game tomorrow? Yes. But at the same time, Diamondbacks have a very good starting pitcher tonight. Anything can happen in Game 7. That's what I'm going to keep telling myself as I just walk around in circles all day.
And also, I'm changing my pick on the Texas Rangers game because I remember I saw it jinx. The ESPN, they put out a jinx. They I don't know if they meant to do it or not, but if Houston advances, you're gonna have the script people come out like crazy, because ESPN put out a tweet that was like it was either a tweet or an Instagram post, and they were saying like the Texas Rangers delay the Astros bid to the World Series or whatever by. It was like, oh, okay. So you're saying the World Series, they're already in the World Series. Okay, cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, there you go. By the way, I love all the optimism in the chat line as we're heading out the door. Turn Malik loose. Malik's going to ball out. We're going to see. This is the week. I'm sure we'll be talking more about Malik and Arch and who's going to end up playing. We're late tomorrow. We're hearing from Sark today, so we should get a timeline for how long Quinn's going to be out, a loose timeline. Take anything Sark says about injuries with a grain of salt. I'm just saying. But we'll have more reaction tomorrow, so be sure to tune in tomorrow. In the meantime, for Nash, who loves talking them horns, for Orange Bloods, Aaron Little, I am Travis Gailey. Hope you guys have a fantastic Monday.